Set categories is used to set data, which you've seen previously, and it also could be used to set colors. So a very basic one, we have a graph that by default on the left has 2 categories and 2 series. And the categories are named Group 1 and Group 2. If you dynamically apply the commands below these graphs, set categories as Group 1, Group 2, and Group 3, you're setting 3 series and then the values for those 3 different series, then you get the graph which shows up on the right. So this is dynamically how you feed data into a graph from data, for example, from a database. Or if you're doing something in CenterView and you're doing it dynamically, changing the values that are going to a graph because you need to do something that cannot be done, for instance, with a data funnel. The other thing that you can do with set categories is use it to override colors. So we use the same command as in the previous slide, but in this case we issue a special command before the name of the category in the set categories with the parentheses color underscore command option, which indicates that we want all categories with the name of group 2 to have a color of red. And you'll see the result of that in the graph above. You can do the same thing with set series. I've seen several instances of a set series where we're setting the values, but in this case we're going to change the color of one of the series. So we're going to change the color of the series named item 2 to be red, and you'll see that that happens in all of the categories. You can also do it for a very specific element. So in this case we're setting it just for the value 87 in the series item 3. That one will be red. Set attributes is a different way of doing colors and things like that. In this case you can specify the attributes after the data has been applied. The attributes allows you to set the color or perhaps a symbol type or a and also a symbol color. So we have a graph where the data has already been provided either with set categories, set series, or maybe from a data funnel in CenterView, and we're going to change the color of the category group 1 and the series item 2 to a color of blue. And so you'll see that set attributes at the bottom and the resulting graph there above it. Set scale allows you to change the scale dynamically. So you'll see a little bit of the definition of the set scale command, the type that it is, as far as which scale type that you're referring to, whether you want it to calculate it auto or manual, and then depending on the type of scale you're specifying a max or a start date if it's a date scale, a min or an end date, and then the major ticks that you want to show up. So the example here at the bottom with this data, which is shown on the left, is we are specifying that we want to do auto calculate on the value scale. We're passing in a maximum value of 100 and a minimum value of 20, and we want 5 major increments. And so you can see on the right that the bottom of the scale starts at 20, the top goes up to 100, and these are calculated to make it look good based on the fact that you specified auto. So if you had, for example, put in a value here of 93 for an auto, then it would probably still go to 100 on the top. Whereas if you had put in a value of 93 and manual for the scale calculation or the way that you wanted the scale calculated, then that top value would be 93. So that allows you to change your scale dynamically, independent or override what Corda will calculate internally. Use color palette allows you to take a graph that may be defined in a certain color palette and to override it when it's displayed with a different color not just on a particular bar, but to use a whole palette of 16 series colors. So in this case, we're specifying olive chromatic, and you get the result on the right. Set series style allows you to change how a series looks in a line graph. So you specify the name or the series number, the line width, symbol type, whether you want area fill under it or not, a bubble type if you're doing bubbles, and a line style. So we take a graph that looks like the one on the left using the two PCScript commands shown below. We're doing a set series style on sales. We're specifying a line width of 3 and a symbol type of 8. Those different symbol types are defined in the documentation. You can look those up. And finally, at the end, we're specifying a dashed line style. Then we're coming through and saying set the attributes on the range categories from 1 to 99 in sales, and let's set the symbol color to be red. And that's how we're getting the red triangles on a dashed line that's 3 pixels wide. There are some additional commands that we won't really show examples of here, but they're useful to know about. Data input format allows you to change or override the data input format to something different. DD prefix, not terribly useful anymore since macros, the expansion macros have been added, but if you had a very long URL and you had values that you were using DD enable for, and you wanted those to be shorter, then you could do a DD prefix that had the major part of the URL, and then very short things if you were doing several unique URLs for individual items as opposed to using one with an expansion variable across a whole range. Load file allows you to specify a file that will be loaded which contains data that will be used to generate the graph. Set data label format allows you to change the format of the string that will be used for data labels. And an example here is you may want the series name followed by the value instead of, for example, maybe the value only, which is the default. Set series names allows you to override the names of series and data which has already been loaded. So if you have data coming from a file and then you want to go in and override what is shown in the graph, in the image, you can do that. Set series to second scale on dual Y-scale graphs. It allows you to specify which series are using the second scale as opposed to the first one. Set stock high-low open close order. If you're using a stock graph and you're again loading that data from in a file, you can specify which columns contain the high-low open and close if they are not in the high-low open and close order. And transposed allows you to essentially swap the categories in series, how things are displayed. And so it's like transposing the data, but at the time that it is fed into the graph.